Hello and welcome to the We Talk Chelsea podcast. Our regular presenter Tom couldn't make it tonight, so unfortunately you're stuck with me, Charlie. We've got Tem and we've got Jordan, another true blue who has joined kindly in today's panel on what has been another Groundhog Week for the Blues. Last time we spoke, it was the 2-all draw against Nottingham Forest at home. Something at the beginning of the season would have been a complete disaster, but in the circumstances was completely acceptable, apparently. And we've come off the back of a 1-0 loss to Manchester City, the champions of England and probably soon to be the champions of Europe. Guys, thoughts? Jordan, I'll start with you.
Looking back on the City game, I'm quite happy City only played a B team because, quite frankly, if they'd have played a full team, we'd have got absolutely battered. Azpilicueta well out of his depth, even against Cole Palmer. Just hasn't got the legs for football anymore, or even not Premier League football. Nothing going forward. Same old story, whole of this season. Playing players that aren't going to be staying with the club. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it at all. However, on a positive note, I'd go with Lewis Hall again. I thought he was brilliant for the time he was on the pitch. Really held his own and a very positive future prospect for us.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that on Lewis Hall. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, in terms of the positives, I do actually think we weren't actually as bad as we have been. We hit, people forget we hit the post. Sterling nearly scored at least once. Lewis Hall had a couple of decent shots. Azpilicueta near the end. There was a few. We created a few chances, no doubt about that. But it's the story of our season. Couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Tem, your thoughts?
Yeah, I pretty much kind of echo Jordan's thoughts. I just also want to add the fact that it was City's second team and we still got outclassed pretty much sums up our season, I think, and how far we've fallen from grace. If you think about it, like you said, Palmer was spinning Aspilicueta inside out, and it just looked like a end of the season game. Like one of my friends told me, it did look like a testimonial. Honestly, we just looked like everything was over. We had nothing to play for, which obviously both teams didn't. But you'd think some of these players now are playing for their futures, for Chelsea especially. Giving themselves an account for something for Pochettino to look out for, and maybe even secure their futures elsewhere. Who knows? But there was just not. It didn't. We didn't play too bad, but there just didn't seem that urgency, if you know what I mean, from a top team who wanted to go out and put a professional performance in. Yeah. Apart from that, I thought the formation Lampard put out was needed for the game. I thought a three at the back would probably suit the game style City were going to play. However, the personnel, I didn't quite see why Aspilicueta was one of the wing backs. I don't think it would ever work. We've seen it several times, and it's just not. He's just not got the legs. He's not got the pace to get up and down. He's not got the technical ability to beat players 1v1 and be attacking. So again, he just, it was just a mess in terms of that. And yeah, I don't know if you agree, Charlie.
I think Guardiola clearly told the Man City left winger, young lad, is it
Palmer.
Palmer.
Palmer,
They
yeah.
just told him just to run at him, especially in that first half. I mean, it was almost a humiliation, wasn't it, for the first 20 minutes or so. I agree with you though. I mean, Arsenal did us a massive favour, to be honest, by losing that match. against Forest. Because look, I mean, if we would have gone in there and Man City would have needed to win that match and would have had all the cavalry out, I think that could have been a cricket score. And I think they did us a bit of a favour, the fact that they'd already won the league. Essentially, it was a party atmosphere. I mean, Guardiola was virtually dancing the conga when he came in out the coach, from what I could see, and it was. I think they almost went easy on us, if I'm being honest. I think there was an element of that. I think they're almost just like, look, just keep possession as much as you can, keep a clean sheet for the goalkeeper and stuff like that. It was a bit of a testimonial. And essentially, we were the unlucky victims who had to turn up to make up the numbers. And that's what it sort of seemed like. It wasn't the greatest game of football. And I don't know what you guys thought as well, but like some of these substitutions, I mean, one thing that I wanted to have a chat about today was Chukwuemeka or Chukwuemeka. They withdrew him from the Under-20 World Cup this week to try and give him some game time, and then they just chucked him on with 10 minutes to go. What do you lads think about that?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off with Lampard's comments on that one, and I'm going to quote him here. I've written it down. I want to give him minutes, but I have to think about my job. When Lampard first joined Chelsea and came in for us, I thought it was a really positive, really good appointment for Chelsea. I thought, this is Mr. Chelsea. He knows the club. He knows what is expected of the club from the players and all of that. And after that comment, I've just lost it with him now, and I think we've slowly noticed it over the last few weeks with the selections he's been picking. He hasn't been picking for the sake of Chelsea. He's been picking for his job later on after Chelsea. And I'd feel sorry for Chukwuemeka. I really do. He could be out there probably starting at the moment. Instead, he's got to sit on the bench for 80 minutes plus, come on against a Man City team which are dominating, which Chelsea are doing nothing to even threaten them. Yeah. And by that time, City had already bought on Haaland, De Bruyne and Rodri. So you're coming up against some solid substitutions from them. So I just really hope Poch coming in, he really starts to work with these younger players more and really build the trust back into them.
Yeah, okay. And I'll bring up Daniel's comment here off the back of the Aspi. So he's hoping Aspi will play on Sunday. Isaac and/or Maxi will have a field day against him. And I think that just sums up Azpilicueta, doesn't it, Tim?
Yeah. I mean, he's been a great servant for Chelsea for many, many years, but I think we've all seen it for the last maybe 2.5 years. He obviously lost that yard of pace. He started even playing centre back when Conte was here, I believe. It was like the right centre back of a three, and that kind of suited him well when he started whipping early balls to like Morata, and in that sort of half space that you always see Trent or Reece James in nowadays. He was doing that quite frequently, and then when he was told to go back to right back, you sort of saw the struggles. I remember when even Grealish was at Aston Villa, like wingers like Grealish, and I can't remember the Man City winger at the time, but I think it was Sterling. He was just running, turning him inside out every time, and you could just see like he used to be one of the best 1v1 defenders in the league back in like 2014-15. If there was a defender I would not want to play against, it's definitely Azpilicueta. He was just unbeatable. He was, it was terrific. But over the last couple of years, we've seen the steady decline. I think it was actually a mistake to not let him go to Barcelona. I think we should have got a new right back in the summer, because this season I don't think he's provided anything to the squad, even in terms of leadership, as you can tell with the way the dressing room looks. I just don't think he's quite captain material. But caveating over to Chukwuemeka, I do believe he should have been let go, because that was a very selfish decision from Lampard, and I don't see how that benefits his own job by restricting a player a chance to represent their country at a major youth tournament where he could probably play 6-7 games. He's only played about 287 minutes, something around that. I couldn't remember, but it's basically like 3-4 hours of football. It's barely nothing for this season, and the minutes that Potter's given him, he played against Man City, I believe, earlier on this season when we lost at home, and he actually had a good game, and then he was dropped. He's just been on the bench or just not even been brought on as a sub. So yeah, it's quite disgraceful how the managers have treated him. And I believe we rejected also a loan deal for him to go out in January, promising him first team minutes this season. And it looks like a terrible decision now because he's barely had any game time at all. So yeah, I think Sunday he should have been given a start, regardless of the result. I think now you see that whoever you play, we still lose. So why not give players a chance who are going to be here in the long term, a more of an opportunity to prove themselves? Because, like Lampard said, it's for his own job. But what's he really proving? He's already lost about 7 out of 9 games or whatever it's been. I'm not exactly sure, but he's only won 1 game since he's been here. So again, like I don't think it really improves much of his CV record if he were to beat Man City away when they've already won the title. I don't think that's suddenly going to change every owner's perspective and think, oh, Lampard's the Messiah, we'll get him in for the next job. So I'm quite disappointed with his comments. I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah, I think Lampard's got this way about him, and unfortunately, and I love Frank Lampard, but he is very, very quick to blame everyone else in every situation. And I'm sure behind closed doors, with his coaches, they will look at themselves. He's not that. He's not. I don't think Lampard's arrogant in any way or anything like that. But I think the team that he's around are so professional, or have been so professional in the past, and have been at such a level in the past that it's very difficult to watch a team that just don't have confidence and don't have, because they've never been through that. You got to remember Frank Lampard basically after he left West Ham, it just went like that, and even after it went like that, he went to the MLS and it went like that because everyone just loved him over there because he was the best player probably to ever play over. He played in the MLS, didn't he? Was that just me? Yeah, he did. And at Man City was a cameo role, and then so he's always had, as a player, he's always had that. Even at West Ham when he was in the youth setup, he's always been the blue-eyed boy, just because of his connections to the club growing up. So I think Lampard's never actually been in that situation where you've got a whole squad who are just basically a bunch of, I've said it before. It's they seem to think that you can chuck a load of players in a room and lock them up, and suddenly they'll start dancing the Macarena all in sync. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. And I think Lampard's been in teams where it has worked like that a little bit, because they've had the right management, they've had the right people above who've been put in place. There are so many problems at Chelsea, so many problems, and I think that the coach is just one of them. And I think Lampard's seeing it for what it is, to be honest, and he is throwing his toys out of the pram a bit, but at the same time, I think he's probably being a little bit harsh on it. It's very hypocritical. I don't know if you've noticed that. On the one hand, he says that they're very good and they're winners and they're very talented, and on the other hand, they say he sort of, the way his body language is basically, I could do a lot better than that when I was playing. You lot don't know you're born, kind of thing. It's the hypocrisy that he seems to have. But the Chukwuemeka is just a long line of Chelsea mess ups this season. And I think one thing that come out today, which really sort of made me laugh is there's been another injury to Badiashile for a 4-month period. And is it just me, or did Bowley sack the whole medical department and hire in one of his motley crew earlier this summer or early this year, sorry, and it's another injury that we've got. I mean, is it just me, or is there something going on there? And are the board responsible for a hell of a catalogue of errors? Jordan, what do you reckon?
I think ultimately you have to put it down to the board for this season. We spent 600 million on new players over the course of a season. And we've just proved buying these players and chucking them together doesn't work unless you've got an infrastructure behind them. Touching on the Badiashile injury, they say 3 to 4 months now. Doesn't require surgery, which I guess is a good thing. So that leaves us without him. On the positive side of that, coming into the new season, though, we've got Levi Colwill coming in. I think he's 100% a guaranteed starter. Who you play next to him, probably Thiago Silva, and I think Fofana's too error prone. He gave away the error for the first goal against City.
He's had one bad game. I mean,
until
then he was probably one of our better signings.
I just see errors in him though, and I'm not saying he's not got potential to be a world class, and him and Badiashile and Colwill will probably be our starters in hopefully the years to come. But I think when you've got Levi coming in, I think he has to start. He's proven himself this season at Brighton, and I just think that's a no-brainer to me.
Okay. Okay. What was the question again? Sorry, I got lost in.
Just in terms of the Badiashile injury relating to the medical staff, Bowley, and basically just. This season, whose fault is it? Is it just the owners? Is it Potter? Is it the players? I mean, where do you point the finger?
Everywhere. If I had enough fingers, I'd point him everywhere.
If you were an octopus, you'd have You'd have 32 fingers, so and 5 thumbs.
Yeah, all Birmingham fans, as we call them. I'm joking. Anyway, I think being a World Cup year, it was kind of hard for players to stay fit, and with the fixture congestion, you saw that it was like a cup pre-season. We had the Nations League last year, World Cup coming up this year, and then a tight Premier League schedule. You still had the cups, Champions League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League games sandwiched in to still finish at the end of May, which normally they're finished, I think, mid-May. So you can see how like an extra bonus of like 12 fixtures shoved in midweeks has led to a lot of injuries. We saw the likes of Reece James, Mason Mount even coming up with a lot of injuries. Chilwell, Kante, everyone's just not been fit at any point this season. So I think the congestion fixture list has something to do with it, but then also the persistence to play players as soon as they've come back from injury has also not helped the recovery time. I think, you saw as soon as players like Reece James were fit, maybe they'll play 90 minutes and then play the next game as well and carry on playing the next game, whereas maybe we should have eased them in more. And you saw that towards maybe February, March, where Potter did mention about like not starting players because they're not fully recovered. But then there were certain examples where, like I said, like Kante, I'm sure he came back like first game and he played the whole game and then played another game and another game and another game, and you're thinking, isn't that, especially with a player that's been out for 5-6 months, is that like not going to overload his muscles again to the point he becomes injured again? And with Bowley firing the medical staff who know the Chelsea players. At the end of the day, these are human beings. You know, you create that feel-good environment when you know the people you work around, not being thrown into some random scenario with people you don't know. It sort of upsets the atmosphere. Well, we've all worked with certain people for a very long time. You get fond of them; they become like just your normal friends. You know, you start socializing just outside of work, and you know, you actually show up to work hoping to see them. So I don't imagine it being any different in a football scenario. After all, you know, they get massages from these people, and you know, maybe you know, go out on events and things. And so getting rid of these people all at once and then bringing new members of staff, everyone's a bit maybe confused, a bit, you know, oh, well, this technique works for me. And then someone maybe is advising you, I'll try this out. And you're like, oh, I don't quite agree with that. A perfect example was, if you remember when we replaced goalkeeper coach for, I think it was Courtois. He didn't like Lolishon's training methods, who was Czech's goalkeeping coach. So he personally requested for a new goalkeeping coach. Yeah, so little things like that, you know, they can people can differ with opinions like that. And yeah, I think the whole transition from the new board, from the old board to the new board, has just been a bit too extreme. So you can point fingers in all directions, really. So obviously, some of it also is going to be just unfortunate, because apparently Badiashile was injured in training. He pulled his groin in training whilst trying to stretch out or something like that. So you can't exactly just say, oh, it's down to the manager, it's down to the new medical staff. But from the outside looking in, obviously it looks more bad on the owners as soon as we just constantly keep getting injured players. I think we had like up to 15, 16 players injured, near enough by Christmas.
We could field a full 11.
Yeah,
people again, and I always remind people, is when Lewis Hall came on the scene, the reason he came on the scene is we had that many injuries, and this was just before the World Cup break. And then the reason that we brought a load of these players in January is because we had so many injuries. So a lot of it was because we had that many injuries that we couldn't, essentially, as Jordan was saying, we couldn't fill the full 11. And look, I take you back to last season, right? And this is how much I blame the board, and I despise them. You've got to look at this, right? We got to, I think it was the quarter-final we got to last season in the Champions League with Real Madrid. Was that a quarter-final? I think it was.
Yeah.
Or was it the second round? Yeah, quarter-final, right? We were third in the Premier League, yeah? We got to the final of both domestic cups, right? So we played a load more games than we have this season, yeah? And we didn't, I can't remember having that many injuries last season. I think we had a few. I mean, we always have Reece James, Chilwell were injured. There's a few things like that. Lukaku wasn't it? A lot of problems when you think back, that Tuchel had to deal with. And yet, and we sold, or they left essentially this summer, Werner, Rudiger, who was obviously a really influential player, and Alonso, and who else? I can't remember. There wasn't any other massive players that I can think of that we lost. So that's it. And then suddenly we're 12th in the league, despite spending 600 million. Well, I'm sorry, the maths just doesn't add up. There's something going on there, and I just think the way that they're operating the club is very, very, very much a way that a business operates. They don't quite understand what they bought. I really have very little faith in them, and it brings me on to my next point. Is next season, I truly believe it's certainly in my lifetime the biggest season Chelsea are ever going to have, in terms of that we need something from next season. There's got to be an improvement. Can't carry on like this, because we've missed out on the Champions League this year. That's going to cost us a lot. All the teams around us are getting better. Jordan, what do you next season? If we get Pochettino in, we get a great goalkeeper, we get a great defensive midfielder and a great striker. Where do you see? What's the expectation for you?
I think it has to be Europa League. I don't think we'll make Champions League next season. I don't think we've got a chance. Key one now between now and the start of the new season is these 3 signings that I think Bowley said we're only going to make around 3, and obviously let a lot go. Being a number 6, more of a DM player, a new keeper, and obviously a striker, in which we need. But honestly, if we get Europa League next season, I'd be happy with that. I think really that's where we are at the moment. You look on paper and you think we should be more, but I don't think we are at the moment. We're going to have a new manager coming in, bringing in new coaches, new staff. These players are going to have to learn his system. They're going to have to get fitter. This is what Lampard said as soon as he joined in. And Pochettino's known for being a very high-pressing manager. So these players are going to have to start learning this and start doing as they're told, because I could probably pick a handful of people that have actually shown true grit in Chelsea this season.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, I think they've just been playing for the sake of it because they've been picked. But next season, sensible signings. Let's not just splash millions, because we know we're going to get rinsed by whoever we go for because they know we need it. Let's just be sensible and move it. Let's take our time. Like we've took our time with Pochettino, who's still not been announced, but let's really study these players and make sure they're going to be a proper fit for Chelsea to hopefully springboard us back into European football next year.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And the other thing that I think as well is you said about it, sensible signings. Look at what Newcastle done. Look at the way that they done it. You know, they half the team that are playing tonight, they were playing from last season, and they were in a relegation battle. And they've made sensible signings, Trippier, other players like that. And I think they took their time. They obviously had the money, right? Everyone knew they had the money, and I think a lot of people were expecting them to have bought, £400 million worth of Brazilian talent from around the world or whatever, but they haven't done it. They've been quite sensible. Tim, what do you reckon, mate?
I've been thinking about this, and I think it's really down to how quick the players get to understanding Poch's system and how good he delivers for us, because I think we do actually have quite a lot of top players. I do see, obviously other teams will improve, but it's about getting that winning mentality back. How quick can we get that back? How quick can these players, believe that there's something to build on and a culture to just keep on going? Because I think that, and this is what I wanted the Lampard appointment to be like, stabilize the amount of losses and, get us on a good run and start seeing that, we can play together as a team, not we're a bunch of individuals and a club that looks like we're going nowhere. Getting turned over by every single team we come up against is not going to make us feel any more confident about next season, because I guarantee you a lot of these players are just thinking, oh, just get me on holiday. Half of them, I bet, don't even talk to each other right now just because they haven't had good times to, bond. You don't really get on with someone where you've just experienced bad things all the time. It creates a toxic atmosphere as well as we all know, so creating a good feeling between players who, all of them won't get on, even if we are winning. But the thing is, they'll look forward to coming into training every day. They'll look forward to the next match day. They look forward to actually winning a game, celebrating with fans. Right now, everyone can't wait to get down that tunnel and just look away. And then us fans, we moan that, oh, why aren't they coming over, clapping the fans and blah, blah, blah. But it is genuinely just embarrassment from them. They feel pissed off just like us, but that's the role of the players themselves and the managers got to do for next season. Having said all that, I do think realistically we should just try to go for top 6, top 7, try and get back into that bracket. Anything beyond that, beyond March, if we still are in for a top 4 race or whatever, then go for it. But realistically looking at the amount of opposition we have now, because 6-7 years ago we would probably have to deal with a Man City, United, and Liverpool, maybe an Arsenal. But now you've got Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, even Brighton now, Aston Villa. Yeah. So you've got like a top 8 or 7 teams to deal with there. So it's going to be harder to break that mold. Whereas we do have a lot of world potential class players. That's the only thing that's saving us, and we've already spent that money on those players. It's just about making it gel as a team now. Who do we get rid of and make sure it's the right decision? I think a lot of it comes down to this summer. How we make the right decisions impacts us in the long term, which is something you mentioned, Charlie.
Yeah, and it's also how do we get rid of these players? Because everyone, I've seen so many people on social media, if they draw up a little short list on their left-hand side of the screen going, oh, right, we'll get rid of it. Almost like Championship Manager or FIFA or something, we just get rid of these players and bring in these three, and all of a sudden it's we win the Champions League. It doesn't work like that. You've got to find people who want to buy them at the right price. We're obviously going to find it very hard to command money because everybody knows why we're selling players, because we're just trying to get the books balanced. So all these teams around Europe are already laughing at us and probably, rubbing their mitts together, thinking, God, how much can we get Ruben Loftus-Cheek for? This CH bloke, how much can we get him for? But my question to you guys at the moment is as well. I was at that match against Wolves when Lampard first came in, and I remember that day I was really, I was buzzing. I was in that. I was there, and I was going. I really think this is it. I think, look, we're not going to. I don't think we're going to get Europe or anything like that. But at the time, it was possible, believe it or not. If we went on a bit of a run, we could have got Europa League or something like that. We weren't that far away. And we had a fairly easy run of games, and we had the Champions League and stuff like that. And I was really positive. Where do you think it actually went wrong for Lampard? I mean, I know a lot of people will laugh at this question because they'll just go, oh, he's not a very good manager. But he wasn't there to do that job. His job was purely to go, this is Chelsea, this is it. Almost to be a, like a, I don't know what they call them, the people in the street, a preacher, almost a preacher, just a temporary belief in this thing. That's all we need you for. You might not believe it in 6 months' time, but I'm just going to convince you this is what we're doing, a bit of a motivator, and just get the players out and giving 110%. Where did it go wrong for him? Where is he that bad? I don't know. What do you reckon, Jordan?
I think I'm the same as you. When Lampard first joined, I was very positive about it, and we had a fairly good run of games, minus Real Madrid in between. I was thinking, yeah, we've got a chance. Even if we got Conference League, I know it's not Chelsea standard, but for next season, we've got a few extra games for these fringe players in the Conference League, and it would work. Just looking at results past the Wolves game, we lost 2-0 to Real Madrid. Okay, that's fair enough. Real Madrid away. But then we come to Brighton, lose 2-1 at home. And then it's just loss after loss after loss with no goals scored and poor performances. And I don't think there necessarily was a turning point. I think it was just a real trickle of bad performances. And Lampard not being a top coach to motivate these players. He did nothing at Everton, let's be honest. Okay, he saved them from relegation, but I think when you're the fourth best out of 4 teams, you just about got away with it. Same as Everton this season. I think that's probably going to be the case. I just think he couldn't gel these players together, and I think it's going to take a bit of time. And a new coach that really knows how to work with young players, which like Poch has done before, and get Chelsea Football Club back inside and outside, because at the moment it's just a shambles inside almost more than outside.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Tim? Lampard. I see the way that I look at it with Lampard is when he his job that he did at Derby. Okay, look, he didn't get it over the line, but he got them to that playoff final, right?
Yeah.
Which is still quite a big achievement. Obviously, he had a lot of backing and stuff like that. But the job that he did at Chelsea the first season, I thought was fantastic with no, with no budget and all that sort of thing. But of course, it was a team with nothing to lose. It was a team with that no one expected anything from, and maybe it's that the expectation that maybe that was what it was. I don't know, but it just. I think the Wolves game almost summed it up for him. I think it was almost at that point when that goal went in, it was almost, well, that's it. I just can't do it. I think he's given up already, hasn't he? Let's face it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He can't wait till this temporary contract is terminated as well.
No. Go off what Gary Neville said at the weekend. Lampard looks like he doesn't like these players at the moment.
Yeah,
because they're not doing what he's asked. That's pretty clear. And almost going back to the point you touched on where did it go wrong? Started with Potter. Well, it started with Tuchel going. I think it's just been a long downfall since then. The Tuchel one was so unexpected for the players as well as everyone else. Like nobody was aware of that until it really happened. And then Potter coming in, we had a second chance at all of this. And unfortunately for Potter, it just didn't work for him. And we had the whole 3/4 of a season of just miserable football. And for a guy to come in with, was it 8 games left Lampard's had?
Yep.
When he comes in, he just couldn't get them going. I think the players knew that, okay, this guy's not going to be around for long. What are we really playing for? We're not going to make Europe. Let's just get this season over with as quickly as possible.
Yeah. It's something that me and Charlie discussed before about Lampard's way into management. And you think about the managers he most probably looked up to. It's a Jose style of manager. Someone with a big ego, someone with a bit of arrogance, and maybe to throw people under the bus. So I can see certain traits from that sort of era of football. Jose was. Although he did protect his players, once he switched, it turned just like that. Like, the arrogance all of a sudden became, it's not my fault. This player, you are the problem. You this. And I think part of Lampard's character from the outside looking in, anyway, it's more like, I'm not the problem. I know what I'm doing, but you're not following my instructions. Rather than how can we work together as a team, or how can I adjust my tactics to suit this team? Not we play my way doesn't work, it's all your players' fault. And I think that he was very lucky to get the Chelsea job in the first place. It was all because of his contacts, obviously, being a club legend and doing quite well at Derby. But then obviously we had a transfer ban at the time, so it was, it coincided quite perfectly, because I believe he did briefly work at the club, didn't he, with the 18s, I believe, under 21. Yeah, briefly, just before he joined Derby. So it kind of fell perfectly into place for him. And he is a guy who was fed with a silver spoon. His dad was a footballer, so that was his come up in football as well. Harry Redknapp was his uncle and manager at the time as well. So, he has been handed these opportunities in terms of his football career. But obviously he's worked hard to get where he is. You don't score 211 goals by chance. But in terms of his management, I think it would do him well to sort of maybe take a step back and, maybe even do something what John Terry done or Steven Gerrard done. John Terry's, under Dean Smith, maybe not the greatest manager in the world, but, he's learning the game before he's thrown himself into the deep end. Whereas, Gerrard decided to go to Rangers, a club, a massive club, obviously, in Scotland, but he knows he's going to be given resources and a chance to actually win silverware. Whereas, Lampard's come into Chelsea, it's just a big institution where things just change, within 24 hours he can be out the door. If you know what I mean. Like it is like that here. So I think it would do him well to go to a lower league side, or maybe even go to abroad somewhere, study football and really get an understanding of the game, and bring himself back when he's got a few more tactics. Because, like I say, a lot of the time when you see a Lampard team lose, it's not because of the effort of the team. It's actually how he tactically sets out the team, and nobody ever can predict his starting 11. That's another big issue. Like, nobody knows what he's going to do. And, how can you sort of have consistency if you yourself are just changing everything every single game? It's something that I know Villa fans used to moan about Steven Gerrard. You could never pick his 11. And any successful team, apart from maybe Guardiola, but obviously he's different class. If you don't know your full starting 11, how do you expect to win a game at the end of the day? So
I always think a manager that swaps and changes as much as Lampard and Gerrard did is a manager that's a bit out of control with his squad.
yeah,
they're unsure of themselves, aren't they? That's the game.
He's trying to potentially keep everyone happy.
They can't quite make a decision. It's the same as someone who's, I don't know, on a diet or something, and they go into McDonald's and they can't quite press the button for a McSalad. They end up with a small cheeseburger because they think that's a little bit better, but at least I had the cheeseburger. It's something like that. But going to Dale's comment now. Big up, Dale. Let me ask you this: do you think you guys would have finished higher with Potter instead of Lamps? I'm going to take that one. I would say maybe one or two places, maybe. We certainly wouldn't have got into Europe. I don't think we'd have got any further in the Champions League. And I think ultimately the reason for the Lampard appointment was purely just to get the fans back on side. I think if it would have carried on under Potter, and we would have finished mid-table, I think the fans would have had a revolt by now. I think they had to make that decision just to say, we're hearing you, but we just don't know what we're going to do now. This wasn't part of our plan. Give us a bit of time, and what we'll do in the meantime is we'll throw in Frank Lampard, who's one of your lads. Basically, he's only there till the end of the season, but go easy on him. And that's basically that was what it was. It made sense actually. Ultimately, you can look at it and go, Lampard hasn't done that well, but looking back, it had to be done. It was getting toxic and toxic and toxic, and people were questioning the owners. They were starting to question their integrity, as we are now. But I'm going to have a little move on before we've got about 15, 20 minutes left, and we're going to have a Player of the Season award, and we're also going to have we're going to do a top three and a bottom three.
wow. Okay.
So I'm going to start with my top three, and I'll let you guys have a little think about what your top three. I'm going for Thiago Silva, number one. I think he's played most games this season at the age of, was it 38 now? 37? 38.
Yeah.
I think he's been probably our most consistent player. Played nearly every match. Was professional through all these changes that we've had. He's been a true professional. I think he would deserve that. Number two, it's very difficult to be honest. I mean, I really don't. I mean, this is going to sound quite ridiculous, but it'll probably be Kepa, because he's the only player who's won us points basically here and there, and he's actually improved his game this season. He's still not good enough, but he's improved his game this season a little bit. And number three, Chilwell. It'd have to be Chilwell, because when he has played, he's been quite good. I'll move it on to the board. Who wants to go first?
Go on,
I'll go in. I've got mine ready. I agree. Thiago Silva, number one. Proves himself week in, week out. He is still a top quality player. And he kept us alive most of this season, even though we weren't alive very much. My second, and it's going to be quite a controversial one because I know you two probably aren't quite a big fan, but I'm going with Conor Gallagher. I think he is potentially the only one in this team that has showed grit and determination to play for Chelsea when he's been given the opportunity. he might not have all of everything we're looking for, but as a rebuild player and a player going forward, I rate Conor Gallagher and I like him, and I think he's got a future at Chelsea. But we'll leave that one to another day.
We'll leave it after. Yeah, we'll have a discussion about that after the.
We'll have an argument.
I'm waiting
after
for
that,
the third one to.
No,
to
the third one.
I'm going to throw you off the stream.
He's only been here half a season, but I give it to Enzo.
Yeah.
He's brought calmness in our midfield, which we didn't have before, and you can see world-class quality in Enzo going forward. And under the right manager and under the right structure, he will become a world-class player.
Yeah, I mean, I forgive me, but I just can't. At the moment, I don't see it, Enzo. I've said it a few times. He started quite well, but in the last few matches, he's been awful. I don't see what he did again. Man City, I barely noticed him, apart from when he was crying on the floor that time. He doesn't. He hasn't done a lot over the last few matches to give me. And people go on about this defensive midfield. What's he? I don't understand. What does he do? Is he supposed to be Kevin De Bruyne? Because he doesn't. He's not. I can't shoot. He's for toffee. He hasn't scored any goals yet. He doesn't. Not that we as a team do, so I can't blame him for that. But he hasn't. I've said it before on this stream. Years ago, it used to be shots from Ballack. We used to get goals from Lampard, Pedro. There'd be people in the midfield. Essien used to whack a couple. But Enzo must have played 15 matches so far, and he's never really got close to goal, to be honest.
No.
So if he's not a defensive midfielder, then what is he? This is what I don't get. And then as far as Gallagher go, yes, there is a certain agreement. The work rate, 100%. He's got a really good work rate. He's got a lot to learn. But having said that, I would give him a year under Poch and let's see what happens, because he is still young and he's hungry. And I think in a Poch team, he could do actually quite a lot. Poch would actually really like him. But on this season's performance, I wouldn't put him in the top. I wouldn't put him in the bottom three, but not in the top three either. Anyway, Tem, top three.
I'm going to go.
Actually, you can have your little review on Enzo and Gallagher if you want.
Okay, I think Gallagher's probably been the second worst Chelsea player this season. Sorry, I actually can't stand whenever he plays football. I just don't think he's good enough for Chelsea. Unfortunately, I do like Cobham players. Every Cobham player is a special player to me anyway. But when I watch him play, it just frustrates me. I just think like you've got so much effort and work ethic, but the footballing ability just doesn't match up. Unfortunately, he has a ceiling, and I don't think he's ever going to reach that at Chelsea. I think for his own benefit, playing for a club like Crystal Palace, maybe a team not so much on the ball, but where he can quick transition and hit teams on the counter and score, that's probably the team he suits. Whereas a possession dominant team, I don't think he has quite the football ability and knack to play intricate passes and be very accurate with his 1-2 passes. I believe he only completed 9 passes against Man City. Do you know that? In the whole
it's all about work effort.
Yeah, but his work effort was really good. He hit the post. I mean, he was.
Yeah, he did hit the post.
Again, that's what I'm saying though. But in big games or even small games, you need to give a lot more than that than just work ethic, because any clever team will play around you, and this is another reason why he gets so many yellow cards. It's not about pressing endlessly. It's about pressing smartly. He just goes for it every time. Anyway. Let's divert from that. Going to my player of the season, I would go for Guro Reiten from the Chelsea women's team. I think probably been the best Chelsea player this season, and Sam Kerr.
I didn't know it. If I knew
honestly,
names, I'd have used them.
I watched some Women's Soccer League WSL games, and she has been very, very good left winger for us, and just comparing to the men's team, it's just a completely different world, to be honest. We've got a match against Reading to win the title, hopefully. So let
Positive news for
that get
us.
secured. But yeah, for the men's team, I'll go for Thiago Silva. I think he definitely comes out first. And second, I would go for Ben Chilwell. And thirdly, I think Enzo Fernandez, although he's only been here half a year. Again, I know Charlie, you'll be. No, actually, I will give it to Kepa. I'll give it to Kepa. Yeah, yeah. I'll retract that. I'll give it to Kepa. But Enzo's a very close fourth. I think he has, although results haven't been in our favour, I think he has sort of changed the way we play. We actually play quite quick. The only problem is we're not very good once we have the ball in, dangerous spaces, shall I say. Because that was one of my main critiques about Jorginho. He just never moved the ball quick enough. Like, you see when Arsenal were down against Nottingham Forest, they were playing a lot of passing. They were keeping the ball quite well in their own half when Forest tried to pressure them. The Forest maybe would try press and they would play out very well, Arsenal. But the problem is, in that final third, again, when teams are backs against the wall, you need to play that ball very, very quick. And often, a lot of the times, he was just hitting the ball straight into Jesus, who had three defenders on him, or is backed into a defender, and there was not a lot he could do. Whereas I think Enzo, if he gets that ball, he switches it straight through to the right winger or right wing back, and it gets that ball into the box a lot quicker. Whereas Jorginho likes to just see whoever's available and play that pass. And it often used to frustrate me. And you see Enzo, he does try a lot, but against Man City, you saw he didn't have any options. He had no one around him to sort of, you know, um, pick out. So I can't really fault him. But in terms of an individual, I think he played very well this second half of the season.
Right, we move on to the bottom three. Let's rattle this off fairly quickly. We've got 8 minutes left on TKS TV, by the way, who are streaming us right now. Thanks very much to Lee for streaming us on TKS TV. My bottom three is Kai Havertz in no particular order. Actually, there is a particular order. Kai Havertz and Mendy are the two, no particular order. And then the bottom is Cucurella, I'm afraid. Poor old Cucurella. Jordan.
Yeah, no particular order because I could name about a starting 11 of worst players for us this season. I'd agree, Cucurella. He's had his chances with Chilwell injuries. He's really not proved himself. A sell. Next one, another controversial one, but I'm going by his standards. Mason Mount really hasn't done it for us this season.
Yeah.
I believe there's so much more for Mason Mount. Really, he scored 3 goals and assisted 2 this season, and that's not Mount numbers. Mount's better than that, and he knows he is. And be interesting to see how this contract comes out, and if he becomes if he stays as a Chelsea player.
Yeah.
And I'd go as my worst one. He was bought in for Tuchel. Tuchel was sold or let go. Aubameyang. One goal all season from a striker brought in to score goals. I mean, it doesn't get worse than that.
Okay, I'll give my 3 quickly. Sterling, Cucurella, and Koulibaly.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, I agree. Yeah. Okay. Well, for another day.
It's hard to not agree with any of them, really.
Yeah.
But we did say we were going to very quickly preview the Man United game. Obviously, it will be another Chelsea dead rubber as we count down the end of the season. Just on the starting 11, boys. Obviously, we had the 5-2-3 sort of formation, didn't we? I suppose on Sunday yesterday. Boys, formation wise, would you go the same, Jordan?
I think you've got to stay the same. United are going to be pushing us. We need that 5 at the back. We're not going to do anything forward, but let's try and save ourselves before.
Tim?
Yeah, try play for the draw. I think 0-0, 1-1. Suits me. We haven't won at Old Trafford, I believe, since 2013. A goal, 1-0, I think was the last time yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the last time we won at Old Trafford. So yeah, thinking about it, most away grounds we haven't won in a very, very long time, especially out of the top sides. So yeah, we don't tend to do well at Old Trafford anyway. I believe we were one of the best performing teams under a Roman against Man United, but lately I think we've drawn like the last 4 or 5 games against them. So yeah, I just see another draw or loss, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much the same. And I think, in the starting 11, it's almost got to the point where I couldn't care less.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. We could go. We could sit here now with one of those boards out and go, oh, Kepa. It really doesn't matter. We essentially we're not going to go out there and win 1-0 on a tactical masterclass. With Frank Lampard or something like that. So I think that's the way it is. But before we do go, I'll ask you for your predictions, boys. Jordan, what do you reckon? Man United, they're going for the Champions League place. They've got to win. I think it must be their last home game of the season. Be doing a lap of honour after the game, probably to celebrate a Champions League qualification place. They only need 1 point. Is there any chance of a Chelsea victory?
No, absolutely not. And let alone a victory, a goal. I think it's going to be a comfortable 2-0 for United.
Yeah, 10.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3-0. Also, just wanted to add, we won't be live obviously till after the last Premier League game, so I'll quickly give my prediction for that. I think we'll actually draw that 1-1.
Against Newcastle. Do you know what the result was tonight, by the way, just while we're here? Because
0-0.
It was a 0-0, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So Leicester, if they win their last game and Everton lose, then they can get out.
I think Newcastle will beat us 2 or 3. To be honest, I think that if they've got something to play for. I think it'll be 2 or 3. They're a pretty good team, pretty tasty team. Jordan, Newcastle at home last game. What do you reckon?
I'm going to like to think we can get a 0-0. I've got no hope on us scoring. I really don't. We're at home. It's the last game of the season. Maybe we might actually play well, considering everyone knows this is all going to be over in 90 minutes. So, keep it on the positive. Maybe 1-0.
Oof. And there we go. We'll see. We will see. We will see what happens. Dale's saying the season's over. They've got the Champions League. I think there is a benefit to getting third, though. I think it saves them a couple of fixtures. I might be wrong, but there we go. Right, we'll call it a night. Next time we will see each other. Season will finally be over. Thank God. Thank you very much, Jordan, for kindly stepping in tonight for our injured Tom. And Tem, good night. And good night to all our subs. And if you've enjoyed today, please subscribe, like, and all that jazz. Up the Chelsea. Cheers.
Good night, everyone.